So today what I want to show you is how to actually build uh, the AI agent that I've implemented directly building the demo for dental clinic. So there's several tools that you will have to use in order to perform these automations. Like for instance, first of all, which the most important that you've heard and actually that I've used to communicate with the AI agent over the phone call, it's the AI agent builder for the phone call, right? For the phone numbers. So that one, there's technically few on the market. There's a Retail, there's Synflow, and there's Vapi. So each one of them has its own advantages and disadvantages. For instance, Vapi is the best one used for like having just a general knowledge about some product, right? And then just also general knowledge about like frequently asked questions, so then it can just communicate with the person and just technically just have like a general conversation, right? So then you can use that to redirect to another AI agent that is more specifically is best to use to add into functionalities. So like for instance, Retail right now, I think one of the best ones right now on the market that you can actually use to connect and integrate with the different APIs and different systems like CRM systems, for instance, right? So like in order to check availabilities, schedule a book, appointments, and much more. So you will probably use Retail API, Retail AI. And then there's a Synflow as well, which is like quite costly, and I think is over marketized compared to the benefit of using it. So I will put it into like the lowest rating right now in actually to use automation for. So yeah, Retail and Vapi is the two to go. For instance, I predominantly use Retail for everything rather than just use one agent with another one, because due to the fact it's just you got to have two different systems and maintain two different code bases, and also it adds a little bit of complications. So anyway, here is the actual here's the actual system that I've built out with the Retail AI. So this is Apates dental agent. So as you can see on my screen, this is the one that technically here's the workflow. So it starts with actually getting the phone number. So we have in here the function, and this function called get phone, right? Which technically what it does, it just sends the API request to one of the workflows that I have built with the NA10, right? It doesn't get to be NAN directly. It can be pretty much any other backend API system, like done in PHP, Python, or Node.js, or Go. It doesn't really matter. But however, for the case of delivering these demos quite quick, we've used NAN because due to the fact it's like no code backend builder, so you can build all sorts of kind of automations with NAN directly. Some people use like make.com or Zapier. They are a little bit for beginners, as well as I think the price didn't really justify what you're actually paying for, because you can pretty much like have NAN, it's open source workflow backend no code system, which you can actually directly self-host on your server, and that's gonna cost you just for the cost of the actual launching it directly on your cloud provider. So whether it's going to be like some private company where you rent out your cloud service, or whether it's going to be one of these overhyped cloud providers like AWS, GCP, Azure, right? So, which I technically don't really like them a lot because they charge quite too much for the sake of like the hyping it all, extra security, extra all of this kind of stuff that is just pure marketing rather than actual cost they should actually charge you for. Like for instance, for like really like small instance, they're gonna charge you like $10 a month, which is quite crazy. Usually like rest of the cloud providers they're gonna charge you like about like $2.5, $3 to $4. So as you can see, like the margin there is just quite heavy. Here's the thing. So I have this custom function getPhone, which triggers API directly into my NAN workflow. And then here's the parameters they sends. It sends like, it's just type object, properties, date, type string, description, so, and required date, right? So here's the way that's, it goes into my workflow NAN, and then what it does, it sends the actual webhook directly into this call right here. Obviously, for the data protection and for the sake of like you guys not DDoSing my backend API infrastructure, I'm gonna blur this out so you won't be able to actually see the endpoints, the URLs. So, and yeah, here's a method which is post method and a path retail get phone number. And then what it does is just directly goes into actual if statement right here, the call number, right? And then in return, what it does, you have the true, and then just responds with a call number from. So technically, that's already been done, implemented directly into the retail. That we can get the phone number where we get the phone call from, like the origin of the number that is calling you. But however, there's not actually direct function on retail, so therefore you actually need to have send like a webhook directly into like some workflow that then can extract the actual number that you call in from and pass it into the knowledge base. That's how we actually got in a dental care demo. That's how we actually got my phone number, which I called from directly to book and schedule an appointment for dental clinic, right? So here we go. That's one of the workflows that it does. It responds directly. It takes that data and it responds backwards towards the actual dashboard retail function. So once we get this, as you can see, next the workflow is just a general prompt to have a conversation. You start with hello, welcome to Apates Dental Clinic. My name is Anna, right? And then we pass that data directly into knowledge base. So then what happens after we having just a conversation? She's gonna ask me how she can help me, right? So that's what we've actually got from the response when we actually triggered the call. So here's the thing. It can just directly, based on the transition, we build the transition on a welcome node. And then the three transitions. First transitions is to figure out whether the user wants to know information about a clinic. Then we redirect to this node. And afterwards, it's going to go into the specific next transition, which is like if it's going to be about the user want to know about the service to book, right? About the service or the book. So and from the welcome node, we have another transition, which is pretty much the same one as the one that we have directly in a knowledge-based node, which is if the user wants to know about the service or talk about the element, right? It's going to go into service node, and the service node is going to then do the rest of the workflow. So, and the fourth one, if the user wants to book, is going directly into the same node base. So this service, as we can see right here, what it does. So the transitions, I'm sure you can actually Google this through, actually how the transitions work. It's pretty much you like given like a specific keywords that should be used to kind of determine whether the workflow should go into that specific direction based on the keywords and the sentences that you provided into your knowledge base and you trained your transition towards, right? So here we go. All right, just 1 second, please. So what it does is just figuring out whether the user wants to so yeah, so there's a few things. The list of service has been retrieved successfully. It's going to go directly into the workflow for conversation. So here, what we have is based on the query of the caller, you will recommend, hey, here's technically the prompt that you're going to pass the information to, and then just technically the agent will respond towards actually given like the list of services that they have, and just based on that, it's just going to respond with the service information and what it does, right? So afterwards, we have another flow directly from, all right, wait a second, if the list service has been retrieved unsuccessfully, is just going to go directly into error node, and then after error node, they're going to go directly into end call. But however, we looking into towards actually the rest of flow. So the workflow will be directly from once we retrieve the information, we trigger this node that is conversational node with a prompt that given this information, you have a conversation with the user. And we have another two transitions. The first transition is if the user wants to know more about the service, you just directly pass into the service information node. And then from there, you have also the same transition as the transition we have in a conversation based on a query for service information, where if the user wants to book a service, you just pass into get date node. We get in the date here, and after getting the data, we moving into directly into another node, which is date information. So the date node, matter of the fact, it's also one of the functions. So it's I'm not really sure what's going on. Hold on. Yeah. So here we go. It's another function that triggered by retail get date, right? And what it does, it sends another API directly into our workflow, which we have in N, and then respond with actual date. So that's done to the fact to understand, for AI agent to understand what's the actual date today. So for instance, that's the wrong workflow. So we have these few workflows right here. So get the current date. That's the API that has been triggered. So here we go. That's the one. And then the code is pretty much just JavaScript code based on the new date. As you can see, here's just a basic JavaScript code that gets new date, which is now, and then it transforms into isostring and then figures out what day of the week it is, whether it's going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or so forth, right? So, and then passes that information into response. So here's how it's done. It passes down into request respond to webhook, right? And then that then gets picked up by the retail function and it returns that. So based on provided this information, we have the next node, which is date information, and we pass that date directly there. So as the date of the booking, only date without time, right? So, and then there's a availability function, which we have another function directly there, which we can trigger based on the information that we have, that we got from the, technically from the client that wants to schedule an appointment for something, right? For some service. And then we ask them about, okay, what day and time do you actually want to come for your appointment? So then we get this date, and then we send another hook directly into the CRM system in order to check the availability for that specific doctor, specific day and time, and see the availability list. So then we respond back to actual clients saying, hey, so for tomorrow or for today, you have these availability time slots that you can schedule on, right? So that's how it's done. And here's pretty much it's the data information a node that is technically that's what it does. It's each service has unique ID service. Obviously, that's directly the information that's been retrieved from CRM system, which we have in VIX, right? So right here, if I go into VIX, we have we have a list of the services. So since I'm just using one VIX website towards multiple demos, so one of them each, which is Dentical Clinic demo. So we have in here like a catalog of different services. So if I go in here, you'll pretty much see in here like a bunch of different services that we have in here, right? So dental, and then skincare and so forth, right? So what it does, it checks for this specific, it sends an API request with a dental type category into our Vix.com CRM system, and then it retrieves these three results, which are root canal cleaning, teeth whitening, and dental examination. And then it uses those to pass into the retail AI towards you got to, from this retrieved information, so you use the right ID towards the actual service that the client tried to book for or the AI agent suggested to book for, right? And then get date time from get date function. So the get date function, which was priorly been triggered, and use the timestamp and so forth, and check for availability, right? So what happens next? Here, we have a transition. Use the tool availability to check the availability time slots. So then, based on all the information that we got, which is service ID number, which is technically the item from the service list, yeah, given the current day in time, now we need to check the availability, right, which is going to trigger another API call directly towards availability function that we have right here. And if I press on it, you'll see the we send another, oops, something happened. So we require data, service ID, right? Service ID, type ID, and then date, right? Which is string. Description, the formatted date when customer wants to book their appointment in format year, month, and date, right? So that sends the data towards the our workflows on NAN, and then that comes directly right here. So check availability. So here's the webhook that we receive, right? Bunch of data right here. And then if it's true, so if it matches all the data, then it sends another request towards actually another function that we have in order to check directly within the CRM system to check if we actually have availability for this time slot. And then answers, give a response, and then send that response into retail, right? And give response. So if the response is successful, that we have, yes, we have availability. So if the user date, time, and slots, so that will goes into time information, tell the caller 5 available time slots, right? And then if you don't have any time slots, then we have another note, conversation, time slots in the preferred date are not available, suggest another calendar day, right? So then it will repeat again. So as you can see, the workflow will just go directly into 1 second, please, I think, right? Hold on. All right, so if the user wants to book, yeah. So we have two transitions. If the user wants to book, then it triggers another node directly to availability, right? It checks availability again. And then once it finds the user date time slot, it pretty much go into this time information node, tell the caller 5 available time slots. So once we retrieve this time slots directly available from our CRM system, it just kind of like tell them from start date to end date, this is the time slots that we have. So like when I ask the suggested time, we use that suggested time to check into CRM system to actually check the availability slots. Then what it does, it gives that response prompt to the caller that, hey, there's 5 available time slots, right? For this date, for this time. So, and then obviously if the user date is not in a time slot, then we just trigger this conversation node. And then if the user still wants to book, then we just suggest another time. We tell them, okay, how about check for tomorrow or day after tomorrow, since they pretty much booked, right? So after say the preferred time, then we have another node, so collect book information. And then if the user wants to another date, then you just repeat that few blocks again, once again, right? So once the user say the preferred time, we have as the name of the caller, you put the variables as a name, email, and get phone number. And the phone number, which we actually triggered earlier in this node right here on the beginning, get phone, right? That all of it being passed into this node. Damn it. So let me put into this and then just, yeah, here you go. So just to zoom in. So yeah, as you can see, we're using these variables directly. Use phone from the get phone function as the user if the phone is correct, right? That's what happened in our workflow when I've been triggering the call for the demo. He asked me if that phone number is correct, right? and then asked for the email in the format of name@example.com, right? If anything is not clear, confirm with the caller. So that's when the flow was triggered towards like, okay, can you provide your name, your email address, and the phone number? And if this is your correct phone number, which I've called from, right? It's going to just tell you the phone number that you got from. So, and then another transition again, after collect name, email, and phone, go into booking. So the booking is another flow directly on a function, which, as we can see on the screen, this tool will book the appointment using information, start date, name, email, and a phone number, right? And then just trigger this URL with the post method. And then that again goes directly into retail, or not retail, it's going to go directly into NAN workflow. And then based on that, you're just going to trigger this workflow called booking that we have right here. So webhook, conditions, true or no, right? And then just HTTP request again, that will be directly going into the actual CRM system of the Wix.com, yeah? Get the success or error, and then respond to the webhook, right? So, and that will get picked up by the retail AI, and then give a response. So, is booking successful? There's two outcomes. The first outcome is the booking was successful and it's going to navigate to another node, and the booking with an error. So for instance, like if there's simultaneously multiple people called to the dentist clinic, and then one of them actually managed to book while another AI agent was talking to another client, right? So then that slot potentially that was available now is not available anymore. Therefore, that's why we're doing these checks directly with CRM system. Even if you suggested it and confirmed with the client, by the time it suggested and confirmed, there might be another scenario where another person who also called the clinic already booked it, right? So therefore, that's why we can have a booking with an error. And then once the error once we process the error, we go into the error node and then apologize the caller and tell them that due to some system issues, we cannot proceed. Thank you, then and then call blah, 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 right? An end of call. But in successful case scenario, so technically here, I just ended it directly with the end call, but what could have actually happened that we could trigger again this workflow directly going into the availability, just tell them, okay, if something went wrong, it was not available, and then please try select another date, right? So this is just a demo. I just decided to finish my workflow directly there and just end call. But in the case of book successful, the booking was successful, the conversation then goes into tell the customer that the booking is successful, and they receive an email with the details shortly. Thank them for using a service of Apates Dental Clinic and say goodbye, right? So, and that's pretty much where it ends. And that's pretty much that's the rest of the workflow that works on the retail, and that's how we actually managed to build the AI agent that then can have a conversation with the people and then schedule an appointment and then just technically just answer some questions in regards to dental clinic, and as well as like just general information about the services and all, right? So that's pretty much the workflow, and that's how simple it is to build it. It just literally takes roughly around like 15 blocks, and that's it. And that can be integrated, as you can see, it can be integrated with the APIs, with the CRM systems and all. So then what happens is, once the booking goes, we have one of the workflows what I've done for my demo currently, right? If any of you are gonna try to actually talk with this AI agent, what's gonna happen is you're gonna end up into my CRM system directly. You're gonna be placed, your booking will be placed directly into my Wix CRM system, which booking calendar, if we go here, you can see currently the 28th Wednesday, which is technically tomorrow because I'm shooting this video on 27th of May. So you have there the scheduling appointment, which scheduled for dental examination because I gave a call and say I have a toothache. So that slot was taken, and now these appointments being scheduled into the CRM system, and you can clearly see here the dental who's going to be the dentist, which is going to be me again, because list of the workers I just added myself, but however, you can have multiple workers that are doing specific services, right? So for me, for instance, for this demo, I just put into the system one worker that can perform all of the services. So here you are. You just technically appeared in my CRM system. Like once you schedule an appointment, you'll be booked directly into my CRM system with VIX. And then also with one of my workflows directly here, what's going to happen is we're going to place you into my actual CRM system that I have deployed, open source CRM system with 20, and you will be placed directly into the people table directly on my CRM system, which you can actually see, for instance, here. That's where it's placed. And then once that has been placed, then I have another workflow that will be triggered to actually, for my AI agent working for my agency, to give you a call and be like, hey, you just tried our demo, and then how did it go, whether you liked it or not. And for that, I'll show you probably in the next video how I actually implemented it. But from this workflow that you can see, we booking and putting the bookings directly into my CRM system from here. So once we add from this webhook right here, once we add into this webhook, we trigger a main 20 webhook, which adds the client, right? 20 add to lead, right? And then response. And then after that, we have new people trigger, which will be triggered once the new lead comes in. And from that trigger, we just wait for certain amount of time, and then we trigger the first call to our agent. So that's pretty much the workflow which I've used to automate some of my services. And then this AI agent then will follow up with you and then ask you some questions in regards to whether you like this AI automations and whether you want to actually implement this into your business workflows. And then you'll obviously experience some of the next level follow-ups that will be triggered later on down the line. So initial call will be directly just ask you how did it go, whether you liked it, and so on. And then the next automatic call will be follow up, just whether, like, if you agreed and if you're interested, it's going to ask you whether you want to pay for whether you would like to come for booking an appointment with me, and then schedule sort of like a consultancy call with me, and then it's going to ask you like whether you're ready to pay like 200, 300 US dollars based on what you've actually seen and experienced, just to come on a call with me. But this is just one of the sort of workflows that I've built in order to show you that this AI agents not only can schedule an appointment and answer the frequently asked questions, but also it can be integrated to actually send you the payment links, so then you can actually pay for your appointments and some of the services that you're trying to book for.